welcome to #ShareAStory. My name is Stavroulla and I'm going to tell you the story of the beautiful crone of Cordoba. Long ago there lived a beautiful crone called La Bruja. She was known far and wide for her magic. When there was no rain, she could make it rain so that the crops wouldn't fail. And when the fishermen couldn't find any fish in the sea, she would tell them where to look. And the miners digging for gold and silver could always be guided by her to find the rich streams of gold and silver. Everyone, at least once in their life, would visit her for help. Her smile was so enchanting, and she was so kind, that nobody paid any mind that she was a witch. Her hair was as white as the snow on the mountains, and her eyes were as blue as the deepest sea. Her skin was like velvet. When she walked through the town, her stride was as strong and wide as a young person. One evening, she was making a potion for a lovesick man when there was a loud banging at her door. When she answered the door, she saw there the captain and 10 of his men waiting to take her away. And as they bundled her out of her house, she looked over her shoulder and she said to the young man, "Don't worry, take the potion and you will be married within a year." Out on the street, the captain caught her eyes and looked at her beautiful smile, and he looked down and he apologized. "I'm so sorry, but the judge has ordered this and I must follow the judge's orders." La Bruja said, "Don't worry," and she climbed into the van. The captain and his men presented La Bruja to the judge. He sat there behind his tall desk, and La Bruja smiled her enchanting smile, and he couldn't help but smile back. And then he shook his head and he banged his gavel and he said, no witch shall live in my town. It doesn't matter how enchanting her smile is." La Bruja kept smiling and held his gaze. And he looked at her again and he thought how beautiful she was. Her hair was like a waterfall. And then he shook his head again and he banged his gavel and he said, no, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are. No witch shall live here." And she held his gaze and she kept smiling. And he was enchanted by her smile. And then he shook his head again and he banged his gavel 3 times. And he said, "No, I shall not be enchanted by a witch, no matter how much I want it. Take her away down into the 3rd cellar." And with that, the captain and his men took La Bruja and they led her down through the 1st cellar, and then further down through the 2nd cellar, and then further down until they reached the 3rd stone cold cellar. And the captain once again apologized to her. "I'm so sorry, but I have to follow the judge's orders." She looked around the cellar and she saw a narrow bed and a little stool. And the captain called his men and said, "Go and fetch some warm blankets and a nice comfortable chair." And this they did. And La Bruja sat in the chair and the captain and his men left. And there she stayed for quite some days. And then some more days passed. And then a few more. And then the judge decided to go and visit her. And he thought to himself, after all these days of it sitting in that damp, dark cell, she must surely be ready to confess that she is a witch. As the judge entered that 3rd cell down in the dark cellar, he was a little relieved to see that La Bruja had her back to him. And she called him and said, "Welcome, Judge, please do sit down in that comfortable chair." And as he plonked himself down into that comfortable chair, he could see that she was drawing something on the wall. And as he looked closer, he saw that what she was drawing was a large black crow. And it almost seemed as though the crow was real. And La Bruja turned to the judge and she said, "What do you see, Judge?" And he said, "Well, I see a big black crow and it looks very lifelike." "Yes," she said. And she drew a basket on the back of the crow. And when she had finished, she turned to the judge and she said, "Dear Judge, look at my drawing. Is there anything that is missing from the drawing?" The judge looked at it and said, "Well, it certainly is so lifelike. The only thing that is missing is someone to be sitting in that basket on the back of the crow." La Bruja smiled and she laughed a little laugh. And then she climbed into the basket and something astonishing happened. A wind blew through the cell and the crow lifted off the wall, flew into the corner of the wall and disappeared. The judge rubbed his eyes and could barely believe what had happened.